Dave Palumbo with an RxMuscle rant. And today's topic, the thing that's pissing me off, is fake gear. That's right. I know a lot of you guys out there use gear. Most of you don't get them from a pharmacy. Now, let's face it, if the best place to be able to get your anabolic steroids and growth hormone is from a pharmacy with a prescription, that's the ideal dream, right? That we have enough money to do that we have a doctor who's willing to prescribe it and a pharmacy who can supply it to us. But that just doesn't exist. Back in the 90s, or even, I guess I could say the 90s and early 2000s, when I was competing, stuff came directly from European pharmacies, and then a lot of the American pharmacies were providing stuff, whether illicitly or legally, it remains to be seen. But it was available. Nowadays, everything seems to be underground. Now, what does underground mean exactly? Because a lot of people out there don't really have a good understanding of anabolic steroids or where they come from. Most people are just starting to compete, and they might want to take a little Anavar and some clenbuterol, and they don't know where this stuff is coming from. There's sites online that sell it. There's places in China that will sell you raws. You got to be able to navigate your way through this, because otherwise you're going to wind up wasting a lot of money and wasting a lot of time and potentially putting your health in jeopardy. And this bothers me because I have guys and women constantly contacting me, and it's so disturbing that no one knows what's going on, and there's so much deception out there. So, number one, there are sites that I guess they call themselves peptide sites, or sites that sell chemical research drugs, they call themselves. And a lot of times they'll take clenbuterol, or they'll take T3, which is Cytomel. They'll take, anastrozole, which is Arimidex, an estrogen blocker. They'll put it into a liquid form. They'll get the powder, they'll put it in a liquid with a little eyedropper, and they'll sell that as liquid, clenbuterol, liquid, Cytomel. And is it good? I don't know. I don't even know what the stability of this drug is in water, okay? A lot of times if you don't shake that bottle up very, very well before you take it, the stuff can settle, and you might get more or less and not an equal amount in each I guess you could say dose. Also, if you're using a liquid version of anything, don't use a dropper to measure it. A dropper is very inaccurate. Always use an insulin pen and draw it out. But the problem is that with these chemical research drugs, it's impossible to tell if they're good or not. Just like it's impossible to tell if these peptide websites are selling real peptides or not. There's no way to test them. So you want to make sure you use a reputable, well-documented, I guess you could say, referred site. But even that's not infallible. Now, the real thing is anabolic steroids, because everyone seems to be either making them, getting them from some underground source. I mean, people show me bottles. I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen this bottle before. It's not like back in the old days where there was Schering made Primabone and Zambon made Winstrol, and Upjohn made Decadurabolin. It's not like that. There's a million different companies. Everyone who's making this stuff in the basement of their house comes up with their own lab, prints it out on their laser printer, and puts a label on the thing, and they're good to go. You don't know if the stuff is sterile. You don't even know what you're taking. And one of the great inventions that have come up, as of late within the last year, was when Bill Llewellyn came out with the ROI Test kits. Now, I sell them. I'm one of the exclusive distributors in the United States, and I sell it at davepalumbo.com. And what this test does is it enables you to check what you're using and see if it's the compound you think it is. So if you're a woman, you're about to take Anavar, you can test the Anavar tablets, or liquid, whatever it happens to be, and you can determine if there's Anavar in there. If there isn't, it will tell you, well, there's Primabol in there, or there's Trenbolone in there, or there's testpropionate in there. And unfortunately, a lot of times we see these very strong compounds being put into these supposed anabolic compounds like Winstrol or Anavar. And that's dangerous, because if a woman takes Dianabol when she thinks she's taking Anavar, she's going to get a lot of side effects from that, okay? The reason why these people put this in there, because these other compounds are cheaper, number one, and number two, people will feel them more. So they'll say, wow, this is the best Anavar I ever used. Yeah, it's the best Anavar you ever used because you're using Dianabol. So very, very deceptive. But with the ROI Test kits, and if you go to my website, there's a chart on there, and for each different steroid, it'll tell you what vials you need to buy, okay? Because there's an A vial, B vial, C vial, and D vial. And the chart will tell you, okay, for Trenbolone, you need to get the D vial and the B vial, for instance. And so you buy those. And take them home when you get them. You put a very small amount of test reagent, a teeny drop in with the thing, and when it turns color, you match it up on the color chart, and boom, you know what you got. You're crazy if you don't test your gear in this day and age. Because I know a lot of guys that have spent a ton of money on gear and then found out the stuff was fake. Okay, that's very disheartening because a lot of people out there don't have the kind of money to spend to begin with on the steroids. They save up all their change and all the stuff they made over the course of a year to buy their cycle for their show, and then they find out all the money they spent was wasted. So that's disturbing to me because it's an unknown variable that I didn't have to deal with back in the day. When I took my gear, I knew it was real. People don't know if it's dosed properly, and unfortunately the ROI test doesn't tell you if it's dosed correctly, and there's still no growth hormone test available. So it's impossible to know if GH is real. So what I tell people with regard to GH, if you can get pharmacy GH, name brand, even if you have to pay triple the price, you're better off take less. Because you could take 2 IUs of Serostim, okay, or Sazin, or Humatrope, and guess what? You'll get more results probably than the guys taking 8 IUs of the Chinese generics that they don't even know if it's good or not. So, bit of advice. Number one, look for pills rather than liquids, okay? Because pills are harder to fake or harder to counterfeit. Number two, test your anabolic steroids with ROI Test, which is available at DavePalumbo.com. And number three, try to get pharmaceutical GH. Also, I guess the fourth addendum would be beware of peptide and research chemical sites that don't have a good reputation, because there's a lot of unscrupulous ones out there. People think they're using clenbuterol, they're really using albuterol, which has no fat burning properties. So anyway, this is a pet peeve of mine. I know there's a lot of guys and girls out there that I help prepare for shows, and I don't want to see anyone get hurt. I don't want to see women getting side effects they shouldn't, and I don't want to see guys wasting their time. So hopefully you guys will follow my little bit of advice, and it'll help you navigate your way through the gear, anabolic steroid, peptide landscape. For now, I'm Dave Palumbo with an RxMuscle rant.